Thank you for joining this session. Following up the session from yesterday, today will be mostly focused on the deep dive, a technical session of all 2 hours of the forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling modules. All right, we'll start with just a couple of um, mm, slides, and then we'll dive into our discussions with our solution architect and a lot of other team members for technical experts. So, as we already know, we already launched our forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling at a re:Invent last year. And one of the key things here is we just follow all the other Amazon Connect capabilities. It's easy to use. It's self-serviceable UI. You can enable and very easy to test it and then try it out before you want to make a decision to become protection or not. And we also leverage AI/ML in the backend to make sure we'll be able to improve your productivity and also give you the insights to help you optimize your operations. So with that, today we'll be able to already have a native capability to enable and also not designed just for our WFM in professionals, but also users that are new to the capabilities. And we do have a lot of customers working with us today to be able to pull into different using spreadsheets, never had the WFM experience, and be able to get onto the services in a couple of weeks. AI/ML build, we built the AI/ML capability from scratch, especially the forecasting piece. It is not some of the commercial forecasting models in the market. We built it from scratch, and also would love to use our Amazon retail data and supply data to train the model, so it's tailored for business for contact centers. And there are a lot of automated workflow built in. For example, when you have break lunches, we'll automatically optimize that at the right place to make sure that you will have the right based on the arriving patterns of your traffic. We'll be able to put them. Sorry about that. Yeah, I had some problem with the app. Okay. Yes, as I said, it's a native capability, easy to use. AIM built in is really some of the things we have made it tailored to contact center business and also automate workflow to optimize your schedules with different activities and also make sure when you have PTOs, time offs, we want to make sure we will put that in the good place and you will have breaks and added automatically to make sure you apply with your and comply with your labor laws, etc. So there are a lot of things we built in to reduce manual work, which in the native session that you will be able to see that in those in the scheduling, forecasting, and capacity planning as well. One more thing I want to be able to highlight here is we've been keep delivering new features, and now we'll be able to support both chat and voice, and it's available in 4 regions, which is U.S. East, West, London, and Sydney. We have forecasting really focused on predicting the workload of your future workload. So at forecasting, you really don't care how you want to meet your how you want to roster your schedule yet. It's purely decide how you want to predict your workload, and then capacity planning and scheduling are the ones that trying to figure out what are the resources and to meet your demand. So and also scheduling will put the agent at the right time to meet your service goals, to meet your demand as well. So forecasting is more purely about demand. Capacity planning and scheduling is purely about supply. How can I make the optimal supply to meet your forecasting at the best place? And then we'll definitely will make sure you will be able to track your adherence on schedules, and also will give you a very easy way to manage your schedules for PTOs, for overtime slots, etc. Yeah, with that, I just want to show the data flow, how it works, right? After you enable, again, it's native. So the data will be pulled from Connect automatically to do a forecast. And then you'll have a short-term forecast of 18 weeks and long-term forecast of the 60 4 weeks of data that will be pushed out to scheduling and capacity planning. Once the scheduling has been automatically generated, you can change it, you can, edit it, and then you push out to your agent. They will be able to see the schedule at the same places they're taking the calls. So it's a very easy user experience for your supervisors, managers, and the agents at the same place. The data is flow from left to right. You can see if you do want to leverage our 90-day free trials to try out, you can turn on a production environment as well, because there's no impact on your existing production, even you are already integrated with other third-party tools. But of course, you can always import data into your dev environment to the testing as well. So that's all I have today. But in the next couple hours, I will have our solution architect Lexi and also Jonathan to lead you through how you exactly you can set up the features and how you will be able to generate the schedule from forecasting to scheduling. All right, Lexi and Jonathan, I'll hand over this to you.
Sure. Thanks, Cheng. Give me 1 second while I share my screen. And let me know when you all can see it. Is it up?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So before I begin, let me introduce myself. I'm a solutions architect specializing in Amazon Connect. And I have been here for about 2 years as an SA. And today I'm here with Jeng to help you guys set up forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. So this is a new cool feature that we have. And then, like, there are a lot of things that we need to consider when we are doing all this forecasting and capacity planning. So with traditional ways we used to do these things, it used to take a lot of time and like not to overspend or overrun your workforce. This is like a really important feature that you must have in, let's say, if you have a large contact center where you want to schedule the agent and you want to have right people at the right amount of time. So like missing, so the challenges like as of now we have seen is that missing service levels or having more agents than needed, which leads to high operational cost, and then either overworking them, which leads to long wait times. So in order to kind of like avoid those challenges and kind of work on them, so Amazon Connect's forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling helps you to predict, allocate, and verify that the right number of agents are scheduled at the right time to meet your operational goals. And powered by machine learning, so this forecasting that we are going to show in a few moments will provide you accurate predictions and deep insights to help improve the future capacity planning and scheduling. And then the forecasting that we have, like it runs automatically. So for short-term forecast, like it runs every single day. So you would be able to see the data getting updated and you would be getting more accurate results based on like everyday computing. And then the long-term forecast runs every week. So the long-term forecast, as Jing told, that it's about 64 weeks of like data that it provides. So we cannot really rely 100% on the historical data that we have, and that is why like updating these forecasts helps you to provide accurate results for the future. And you do not have to publish like the forecast every week. It's like you can just look at the forecast. If they look good, you can go ahead and publish that. And if it does not look good, you have a way to override that data as well. So we'll be walking through all of that, and I am going to be focusing on specifically forecasting, capacity planning, and then my colleague Jonathan is going to walk you through the scheduling piece of it. So yeah, and before I start, I wanted to share this link with you. S- Uh, so as of now, we are working on like workshops which we can share with you all, which would be public. That is something that you would be able to use. But as of now, you can use this link where you have all the data related to forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. So you can see the get starting guide. So in this admin guide, you would see all the steps, how do you enable it. So today, like it's going to be a deep dive but a walkthrough, because like a few features do take time in computing and stuff. So we have like the data ready to show. I will be showing you and walking you through like the entire process. But yeah, we do have like some data ready that we would be showing you. And like if you are trying to do it hands-on, it might be taking some time. So that's totally expected, because the machine learning model needs to compute that data for you. And in these 2 hours, we would not be able to kind of like get everything done. So that is why we have like a few things already. And then you would be having this admin guide as well that you can take a look at and walk through it. So if all's good, then I can get started. So here on this screen, you see my AWS console. So this is my Amazon Connect instance, for which I can go to this instance configurations here on the left-hand side panel, and I can click on forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. So as Jing mentioned, it's like literally one click. So as soon as I click on it, it says in progress, and you have enabled forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling for your instance. And once you have enabled that, you would be able to see it here. So as soon as you go to your Amazon Connect instance, so you would be able to see forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling here. So these are the three things that we would be working on today, and that's under analytics and optimization section. So in order to get started, so what we have to do is after we enable the feature on the instance level, what we need to make sure is that the admin or the supervisor who is going to create schedules or like work on the forecasting piece, so they have access to it. So we are going to go to security profiles and make sure that those folks have access to the specific permissions required for forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. So if I go to this admin user, so as of now, I'm logged in as the admin, and like the security profile that this specific admin has is the admin profile. So if I go here, I can go to the security profiles, and in the analytics section, analytics and optimization section, you would be able to see forecasting, capacity planning, and forecast and schedule intervals. So as of now, I've given all the permissions to this user as the admin so that they can create forecast, publish it, and then do the capacity planning and go to the forecast and schedule interval as well. The second set of permissions that we would need here is the scheduling piece. So the schedule manager is something that if you are providing admin or supervisor the access to publish that, so this is the uh, thing that you would be looking at, that they can schedule the like scheduling piece and then work on the published schedule calendar as well. So once you publish that schedule, the if you are the one of the supervisors for that group, you would be able to see their calendar, because like every supervisor or manager needs to see the calendar for like their direct reportees, right? So you can look at those calendars using that. And then the last piece of permissions that an agent would need is this agent application schedule calendar. So you can provide this to agents so that they can take a look at their uh, screen. So just to kind of like give you an overview, this is how the calendar would look like. So they can just click on this button and they would be able to see the scheduling. So this is how it would look like, just to kind of like give you an idea. So yeah, and once you have like saved that for the admin, you can just do that, and then I can go back to the agent's profile, and in agent I can provide them this staff calendar that I like just showed, that you can give them this permission so that they can look at their calendars at what they are scheduled for. And then they can request overtime, time off, and then see like voluntary time off option as well if you provide these permissions. So that is the first piece of this big puzzle where you kind of just select that what needs to be there. So as of now, like what we discussed was enabling the feature here on the instance level. then going to the security profile and providing them the appropriate permissions, providing the users, so the agents as well as the admin or the supervisor. So providing those the permissions. And then we come to the forecasting piece. So as soon as like if I go to this analytics and optimization section, I can just click on forecasting. And here are a few forecasts that I have published. And you can see that I have published a few of them, and then there are a few which are just computed. So to begin with, like we have to set the forecast and schedule interval. So for every business, like there are different granularity level people prefer. So let's say if you are doing a 15-minute interval, you would go and select this. And just to kind of let you know that once you set this interval, you would not be able to change it. So whatever is important for your business, if it is like a 15-minute interval granularity or a 30-minute interval granularity based on, let's say, if like you are using another system today, which has a 30-minute interval, and like those are the reports that you have. So that way you can select the 30-minute interval or 15-minute based on your choice, and then you can import the data. So, and as of now, let's say if you have been using Amazon Connect since a long time, let's say if it has been more than 6 months, you can use that data to compute the forecast. But let's say if you are new to Amazon Connect, or if you want to kind of if you do not have data on Amazon Connect, then you have an option to import it as well. So we like once you click on this upload data, there is a CSV template file that you can use. And in order to show you, so this is how the template would look like. So in this, what you have to do is the template would have like these few columns, which is queue name, queue ID, channel type. Then you have interval duration, timestamp, then incoming call volume, and then average handle time and the contacts handled. So this is what like you would upload. So I am just showing you how this data looks like. So we do have sample data, as in like I have just put this as replace this with queue ID or replace this with queue name. Jing, if you could upload that on this Chime chat. So you can just replace these things. And like if you want to do that, if you want to do it through the Excel sheet, here you can just like find and select and go to replace. So this is what I did. So what you can do is like here you would have to do kind of vice versa. So I can just like find this thing. The sample data would have something like this that replace this with QID or QName. So you can find this and then replace this with your QID. And to show you where you will find the QID, let me quickly show you this. So this is the queue that I have. You can like either find the QID here or you can find it here as well. So if you click on show additional information, you would see the QARN, and this is the QID. Like after Q and slash, you would see the QID, and you can find it here in the top as well. So ID equals to this. So this is what you would have to replace it with. And once you provide that data, once you replace the name as well as the QID, you're good to upload it. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that data for Q5. So I go to upload and then I select my interval. So this is the 15-minute data, and then I have daily data as well. So it takes like a few minutes to kind of like upload that, and then it would be processing the data to see like if it is the way like Amazon Connect is expecting or not. So I'm going to upload this daily one as well. So here it would say that, okay, it's in progress. It would show you like what's the date range. So this all data is dummy data. So like again, if you are using your own data or your own instance and to try things out, That way you would get a good forecast and good result. Whereas, yeah, with dummy data, you would be able to see like how it exactly computes and kind of like what all things you can see. But yeah, at the end of the day, dummy data is dummy data. So I'm going to show you some graphs, although they might not look really pretty as yours. But yeah, so once I upload the data in the using this import data, I can go to forecast groups and I can click on create forecast groups, and I'll name it FG5, forecast group 5. And then here are the queues where you can see what queues do you want to upload to this forecast group. So I have the data for Q5. So I will go ahead and drag this here. So once I have this, I can go ahead and save it. So now you can see that like I have how many number of queues have I associated to that forecast group. And once I have created the forecast group, and if I go to forecast now, so here it will take some time to get uploaded. I guess like the data might still be, yeah, it's complete here. And yeah, you should be able to see FG5 soon, and that way you would be able to see. So as of now, you can see the status is scheduled since I uploaded new data. So it's basically looking for like more data and see to see if there has been any change. So in order to kind of like show that, I will go to FG1. So I already have this open here. So as I mentioned that, like when you're creating oh, actually there is one step that I missed. So I have to go ahead and create forecast. So I'll select forecast group, which is FG5. And here, as we mentioned that like you have long-term forecast and short-term forecast. Short-term forecast is going to be there for 18 weeks at a 15-minute interval granularity, whereas long-term forecast will be 64 weeks at daily granularity. And once I go ahead and save it, that is where you would be able to see FG5. And last computed date would change to once it computes it, it would change the date to March 22nd. And yeah, all these things are getting computed, and then you would be able to see the published one once you publish that data. So here for FG1, I have like some short-term and long-term forecast open here. So going to the short-term forecast, like I have, so you have two options. You can see the contact volume and the average handling time. So here in the contact volume, you can see this thing that as of now, since it's March 22nd, so if I go to this data, I can still see actual, which is the orange line. And then I have added some override as well. As I was mentioning that you can use override. So what you can do is you can just click on this and upload forecast override. So let's say some of the companies might have like on holidays, you actually might have holidays, whereas some like retail business like Amazon.com, for holidays it's or maybe Prime Day, we have to kind of like forecast and kind of see things accordingly, and we need to have more agents during those days. So that way you would be able to upload forecast override that, okay, this is what you are expecting. So you can upload the override. Let's say if you are expecting lesser volume, you can upload that. Or if you are expecting greater volume, you can do that too. So this is how the data would look like, and you would be able to see the graphs like this and even the variance. So again, like as I mentioned, that this data is dummy data, so that is why like it does not really look that pretty. But you can see this thing that you would be able to see actuals. You would be able to see the last published forecast, what's the last computed forecast, and what were the actuals prior year, and if there are any overrides that you uploaded. And then here you can see the queues as well that, okay, like for forecast group one, I have two queues, Q1 and the basic queue. So you get all queues data as well as like you get different queues as well. And here you can see the variance. You can see like what's the last computed value or the published value. So you see all that data. And this blue thing is something that would show you that you have applied override to it. So that is why like you can see this thing that it says that this was overridden by this data. And then if I go to like maybe next week, so yeah, I do not have any override for that. And obviously you do not see any actual because it has not happened yet. So yeah. All right. So yeah, since we are on Wednesday, March 22nd, that is where I can see the last computed one, last published forecast. I can see the actuals, actual prior year, and what's the variance. So all this data is something that you would be able to see. And again, as I mentioned, that once you are satisfied with like the data that you are getting, so you can go ahead and publish this forecast. You do not have to publish it like every single day. So it would be computed for you every single day for the short term one. And you can see like if there was a major change in the data, you can go ahead and publish the newer schedule so that the capacity planning and like scheduling will be based on that. So yeah, and then you have groupings. Let's say if you want to group on the basis of queues, you can do that, or you want to group on the basis of channels. So we do have voice as well as chat. So as of now, this data is just for voice, and like I do not have any data for chat, so that is why you just see the voice, and you can even like select the queue. Let's say if you just want to filter it on the basis of Q1. So as of now, like you can see here that it says showing all queues. So you can filter based on the queue as well, which you want. And then if I want to show you the long-term forecast, so you can see this thing that like this is how the long-term forecast would look like. So as of now, my date range is March 20th, 2023 to March 15th, 2024. So it's about like 52 weeks. So you can see that. And then you can see that I would have actuals here, which is like nothing but like a dot. So it's going to give me a weekly data. So as of now, you can choose the granularity to be daily. So as I mentioned that the long-term forecast is at daily granularity, whereas the short-term forecasts can be done at 15-minute granularity as well. So yeah, this is how it would look like. So as of now, you can see the actuals for March 20th week, and then you have like all this data. So you can take a look at it. You can see like if there are any overrides. If you want to upload that, you can do it. And just take a look. If everything looks fine, you can go ahead and publish the data. And if I go to the short term, let's see, like if I can show you today at 15-minute interval. So once I do that, it would be able to kind of like show you how the actuals and published forecast and computed forecast, all those graphs would look like. All right, it's loading. Yeah, it's okay. It actually did it for a week. Let me do it today. Uh, So yeah, here, yeah, this is how this graph looks like. This one is pretty. I really love the colors. So here you can see that I have last computed forecast, last published forecast, the actuals, actual prior year. So this is like for the entire day. You can see the contact volume. And as of now, since obviously like it's not the time yet, the day has not ended, you do not see the actuals for the later duration of time. So yeah, this is pretty much all about forecasting. So yeah, let me go ahead and go to capacity planning now. So on this, like once you have done with the, like once you have created the forecast and it has computed, so the compute might take some time based on like the data that you have and it would like apply the machine learning models. It has to generate like 64 weeks of data for long-term forecast, and it has to generate 18 weeks of data for the short-term forecast. And you can see that like I can see short-term for contact volume and short-term for average handling time, and then you have long-term for contact volume, and then long term for average handling time. So you basically get four forecasts for one forecast group. So as you can see, FG1 here, FG1 here, and then it is here, and the last one is here. So you would get like these four forecasts for you, and then you can go ahead and publish it. And once you publish your forecast, you can go ahead and start planning your capacity. So here also, you have like an import data. So you can import the data for the available full-time employees and the shrinkage. So yeah, let me just refresh it. Yeah. So again, like when I click on import data, you have the template here, which you can fill out and upload. So as of now, like I do have that template can be provided to you here, but yeah, this is what the template would look like. So you would see the forecast group. Then there are these dates and how many full-time employees are available. What's the in-office shrinkage and out office shrinkage. So once you define this data and once you provide that, okay, this is the forecast group that I'm looking at. So once you have given all that data, that is when you can go ahead and import it. So I'll go ahead, click on upload CSV, and if I'll do this data. So once you are doing this, it would say processing and it would validate the data that it is in the right format. So it says validation pass, and now it would be computing things and processing the file. So yeah, we are not really going to wait for that. So I do have the capacity plans ready to show, and like I will create a one scenario as well. So the most common scenario is 80/20. So 80/20, by that, what it means is that I'm going to have 80% service level within 20 seconds of voice. So this is the data that you can provide. You can select either the service level or the average speed of answer. So you can do either of those, and you can define this thing as well, that what's the maximum occupancy that you would need, what's the daily attrition, how many hours does a full-time employee works, and then what are your business operation days. So once you select all of that, you can go ahead and create the scenario, save the scenario. For me, let's actually do this. Let me do CP, and I would do it, let's say 75/25. And I can just like copy the same name, or if you want to provide different descriptions, you can do that. And then let's say if I do 80% maximum occupancy, and then I can leave the full-time employees as 40 hours. So as of now, let's say my business is non-stop and I have to work 7 days, or my business is 7 days a week. So I can select that. And then if you are outsourcing any contact, you can provide that. And if you are like providing any maximum overtime, that how much like a person can maximum do in overtime. So you can provide an upper limit there. And for the voluntary time off as well. So these things are optional. If you want to do that, you can provide it. So I'm doing 85, sorry, I guess it was 75. Yeah. I'm doing 75% of the calls within 25 seconds. So I can set that and I can go ahead and save it. So you can see this thing that it says that associated capacity plans are zero to this one since I just created this. So now the next thing is once you have imported the data, created a scenario, now you can go ahead and create a capacity plan. So you can go ahead and click on generate plan, and you can name this plan setting. Let's say if I'm doing it for forecasting group 5, for example, and if I'm doing it 75/25, and then I can select the forecasting group. So yeah, I guess this is not published yet, so that is why it's showing me an error. So yeah, I'll select FG2 here. Let me do that. And I will copy the same thing here. So if you want to provide a start date and end date, you can definitely do it. And then you can select the planning scenario. So I can do CP 7525 and I can go ahead and click on generate capacity plan. So again, like this will take some time to process and get you that data. And in order to show you how the data looks like, I already have something ready for you. So here you can see that I have the plan setting name, then I have the description. I have selected which forecast group that I'm going to focus on, and what's the start date and end date. And then I have selected the scenario that I'm looking at. So once you have defined the scenario, and you can see all these options here that like whatever you have defined. And once you do that, I have defined the service goal as 80% within 20 seconds of voice. So it would give me all this data that what's the forecasted contact volume and what's the required amount of full-time employees without shrinkage and then with shrinkage. So if you have imported the data for shrinkage, so this is like it would compute all of that for you and it would show you the data. So here you can see that like there is a gap. So I am having 11 extra employees during this week, whereas for the other weeks, like I'm being short on employees. I have like 9 short here, 4 short this week, 13 short this week. So you can kind of like download this capacity plan and then based on that, you can find, let's say, if you want to provide any voluntary time off for that specific uh, time, or let's say if you want to kind of provide any like days that okay, if does someone wants to take a vacation, I probably would raise my hand first. So yeah, I can go ahead and select that. Or if let's say you want to see that you need overtime from employees, so you can do that as well. So yeah, so the capacity plan would kind of like contain all that information. You have, so once you upload the plan override, so let's say if I want to upload that, as I mentioned that you can download the CSV and like templates, there are templates that you can provide. And I have the override data that I showed here. Uh, so yeah, this is the override data. Oh, that was like, sorry. This is the override for the forecasting. So which I showed here, forecast override. But yeah, you can upload this file. So once you provide this required FTE without shrinkage, so that's the file over here. So with shrinkage and without shrinkage. So if you have like this file and once you upload it, you would be able to see all this data and you can override it and rerun the plan. So and whenever you make any changes to the, let's say, date, so you would be able to see that, okay, I have changed the plan input and now I would need to rerun the plan. So I can go ahead and rerun the plan so that you get the updated results. So yeah, that is how the capacity plan would look like. You can download the capacity plan. So once you have like, you can download the last computed one and then you can publish it as well. So let's say if I go ahead and this one is complete, I can go ahead and publish this plan. So published successfully, and you can see the state that, okay, it's now published, and now you're ready to go to the scheduling piece. So yeah, I would now go ahead and hand it over to Jonathan.
Thanks, Lakshay. Let me get myself off of double mute um, and go ahead and share my screen. I saw a question from Eric around gap per interval. It will be showing that as part of the scheduling. So we'll get to that one. Let's go ahead and share my screen share. Somebody on the AWS side can confirm when the screen share comes up.
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. I'm going to take that to mean I'm also audible. Uh, so, as Lakshay mentioned, forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling is accessed under the analytics and optimization menu. So, choosing scheduling brings me directly into the schedule manager. Um, Publishing schedules is something you can do on demand. It does take somewhere between 5 and 30 minutes to complete. So, we've already generated a couple of them for the purposes of this demo, but I'm going to be walking you through the components that make up a schedule that you'd need to create before you generate your first schedule. And the first place you start is shift activities. And these are any activities that your agents may be doing other than their core job of handling interactions, whether those are voice or chat interactions. So things like breaks, lunches, team meetings, training, voluntary time off, PTO. You would define here within shift activities, and then we'll show you as part of shift profile where you can have those automatically assigned on a daily basis. When you're defining a shift activity, you're giving it a name. I'm going to go ahead and put in, one-on-one, something we typically have with our manager on a regular basis. I'm going to define that as productive. I could have defined it as non-productive or time off. Within non-productive, I also can define a subtype to indicate if it's a break or a meal, which comes into play when defining break rules in the shift profiles. I'm going to go ahead and say that, my one-on-one typically lasts about 30 minutes. We're going to go ahead and block that in. It's not something I want to track as far as adherence to schedule, but it is something that I, as an agent, am paid for. You can also add multiple activities at one time when you're first setting this up to make that initial setup a lot more seamless and straightforward for you. So I go ahead and add that activity. You can see it's added in when it was first created, updated, as well as the audit trail of who has made that change. Once I have all the shift activities I have defined, and shift activities can be used across multiple schedules. So really something that you can define once and then reuse throughout your contact center. Most contact centers have a lot of commonality in activities, but certainly you can create ones that are unique to particular schedules in your environment. So I've created here a couple of shift profiles already for my morning, evening, and weekend shifts. When defining a shift profile, I give it a name. I define what days of the week it's applied for and the start and end times for the schedule. This is where I would go in and define my break rules. Things like I want to make sure that breaks and meals are at least an hour apart. I can easily define that here. Let's say I want to make sure that it's at least an hour and 15 minutes in between a break and a meal. But I also want to make sure that, an agent is getting a break without working too long. So making sure that we're complying with any applicable internal business regulations you might have, as well as any external work rules, laws there. I also add in the shift activities that are relevant for this particular shift profile. I could add in the one-on-one I created here, breaks, lunches, and what I'm defining here is daily shift activities. So things that every agent in this schedule is going to do on a daily basis. So typically that would be breaks, lunches, things like a one-on-one or a team meeting probably happen once a week, once every other week. And those are things that you can add into the schedule manually after the schedule is generated. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the shift profiles that I've already created. You can see we have a day shift that runs from 7 to 7 every day. I've defined that I want to make sure that the first break happens at least 2 hours into the shift, but it happens sometime within the next 2 hours. Now I want to make sure that the lunch break happens at least 3 hours into the shift, and again within the next 2 hours. I could further update this to say, I want to make sure that those breaks and lunches are at least 30 minutes apart from each other, or I can define what the maximum distance is. For the purposes of the schedule, I'm going to go ahead and keep it fairly straightforward and simple. Once I've defined the relevant shift profiles for my shift, my schedule, I'm going to go in and create a staffing group. I have a morning and an evening shift here. I'm going to go ahead and focus on my morning shift. And a staffing group is simply the managers, supervisors for a particular schedule, as well as the agents that are part of that schedule. And I easily do that by clicking on Add Staff, choose whether I'm adding to someone to either the agent list or the supervisor list, and select the relevant individuals there and click on Done, and they're added into this staffing group. I associate it to a particular forecast group. In this case, I've chosen my forecast one group. As Lakshay went through earlier, the different forecast groups that it's possible to create within your contact center. And then I associate it to the shift profile for this particular staffing group, which in this case is my morning shift. I then define any working rules of is there a certain minimum number of hours that I want to schedule. In this case, I've defined a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 10. I can define that whether that's on a daily or a weekly basis to comply with what my business rules and applicable laws are. I can also define the minimum staff required. There may be times where your contact center is open, but the forecast does not indicate that there's any contacts forecasted to come in at that time. But you always want to make sure that you have at least one agent staffed if your contact center is open in case a contact does come in. So that's where I can define this minimum staff here, and I've chosen to define simply one. You may choose, knowing your business, that you want to have a minimum of 2, 3, 4, 10 staff, depending on the size of your contact center and the potential demand you might have. I'm also able to choose if I want to enable time off requests for this staffing group. If time off, overtime, voluntary time off is something that I want to manage within the Amazon Forecasting Capacity Planning and Scheduling solution, I go ahead and enable it here. I can also go ahead and set a number of group allowance rules to define if I want to have, different activities automatically approved. I could say, in our business, each team is allowed to have up to 2 agents on PTO at any one point in time. Beyond that, it's manager discretion. Additional approvals are required. So I could simply define here that I want to allow, PTO, whether that's full or part time, and go ahead and set what the maximum daily allowance hours are per day. So getting into that automation, allowing your supervisors to define rules so that they're not having to manually manage as many tasks. You're able to automatically approve those time off requests. And we'll show you how you're going to be able to do that. And the final piece that needs to be configured before you're able to generate your first schedule is any staff rules you want to define. And this is where you might define different time zones if you have agents located in different areas of the country or different parts of the world so that they're in their relevant time zone. I can define minimum and maximum working hours per day and per week. If you have an environment with a mixture of full and part-time agents, I want to make sure that my full-time agents are getting the 40 hours a week that they need to be full-time agents. But I want to make sure that I'm not scheduling more than, say, 32 hours for my part-time agents so that I'm in compliance with those rules. I'm also able to define minimum consecutive and maximum consecutive working days. If I have agents that perhaps work a variable shift from week to week, I can say I want to make sure that they work at least 3 days consecutively, but I don't want them to ever work more than 6 days consecutively. I can also then define what the minimum gap in hours between different shifts to ensure that they're getting appropriate rest, as well as the minimum consecutive days off in between different shifts. So a lot of flexibility here. You can define these rules on an individual basis, all the agents, or a selection of a group of agents. So a lot of flexibility there to configure the agents and staff rules in the way that meets your business needs. Now that we've defined our shift activities, shift profile, staffing groups, and staff rules, I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to the schedule manager, and I can generate my schedule. The first step that I'm going to do there is give it a name. I'm going to choose my forecast group. I'm going to choose, I see here the associated staffing groups. I'm sorry, was there a question? Yeah.
Yes, there's a ask, can you go back to the staff rules after clicking apply to staff? There's a question from the chat.
Sure. Sorry, it wasn't. The chat's not auto scrolling, so yeah, let's go ahead, jump back to the staff rules. Absolutely. Okay, so the question was after clicking on apply to staff. Go ahead and put them in Eastern time. I'm going to say my 6:40. Let me find. Okay. So Carolina, and clicking on, I can just click on apply to staff here, and it just goes ahead and applies it there. So you get the success message that I've applied that rule to 3 staff. If I go back into that individual agent, I can see now the values that I've entered.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Absolutely. If that didn't answer the question, put something back in the chat, and more than happy to dive deeper on any of these areas. So to generate the schedule, choose the forecast group. Actually, let's go back to it. Let's just start this. So I give it a name. I choose my forecast group. I choose the start and end time that I want for my schedule. As Lakshay mentioned, schedules can be up to 18 weeks in duration. I go ahead and define what I want to optimize this schedule for. Do I want to optimize it for a particular service level? Or do I want to optimize it for a particular speed of answer? And I can have different values in an omni-channel contact center where I might be handling both voice and chat interactions in the same schedule with the same staffing group. I can go ahead and define different values for the different channels. Perhaps I want to have, an average speed of answer of, 20 seconds. But perhaps I want to define a different speed of answer for my chat interactions. So I'm easily able to do that there. I could also have chosen to optimize it for service level and do that per channel as well. Once I've put the inputs in for the schedule, I go ahead, hit save, and the schedule will start generating. As I mentioned, that takes roughly somewhere between 5 and 30 minutes to do. So we've gone ahead and generated one already. You can see here we have 2. One that's generated has a couple of warnings that I could dig into, and one that I've already published. Until I publish a schedule, it's not visible to supervisors or agents, only users with administrative privileges to generate the schedule. So let's go ahead and look at that forecast group 1 schedule that we created here. And I'm going to guess that my token expired because I've had this open. Okay. The auto logout feature. So I can see here all of my agents on my schedule on my morning shift. I'm looking at March 13th, which was the first day of the schedule, but let's go ahead, jump up to today. I can see all of the different activities. And what's really neat, earlier question around occupancy for different intervals is I can see my occupancy percentage at a glance across the top of the schedule. I can also see where that fits, who my forecasted and scheduled head counts are. I'm dead on right here at 10 a.m., but I'm a little bit over, I'm 6 overstaffed at the 9:45 to 10 a.m. interval, or I'm 5 understaffed here at noon, so I can see what my forecasted schedule, what my net is, and then I could also see this schedule happens to be voice only. If it was voice and chat, I would have a different service level for the chat percentage as well, so I can see what my service level is going to be based on the staffing. So doing better than my goal here, but doing a little worse at the 10:45 to 11 a.m. hour. So very easy to see at a glance. I can also easily do things like move breaks, lunches. I could shift when this break is. So I could go ahead and move this down to, let's say, move it to 10:45 to 11 a.m. Um, I can optionally choose to override the rules check if I want. I'm going to go ahead and not do that now. And you can see here, it's saying that by doing that, I'm violating one of the rules I've defined as far as when breaks and lunches need to occur. So at a glance, it's going to tell me, is the action I'm doing going to violate one of the rules I've defined? So your supervisors aren't having to remember what those rules are at a particular time. They're easily able to attempt modifications, and it's going to automatically check against those rules for them. I could also do things like add in those activities that do not occur on a daily basis. I think I saw a question around perhaps some days there's a meeting, a training, a lunch, but some days there's not. So again, I could go ahead and add in my meeting. I'm going to go ahead and override the rules check just to make sure that it goes in for me there. And I can see right there now it's automatically updated with that meeting. And then for the changes to make effect and be visible to the agents and supervisors, I would need to go ahead and publish that schedule. I'll show you how you're able to handle that via requests in the published schedule. But if this is something happens on a weekly basis that you want to go ahead and make sure that you get in before publishing the schedule, you can go ahead and add those activities in, make any changes to adjust breaks or lunches to align with your business requirements. And then when you're satisfied, go ahead and publish that schedule. I'm not going to go ahead and publish it because I have one already published that we're then going to be able to see from the agent perspective. So jumping over to the published schedule, again, I'm choosing it based on my forecast group. The published schedule is visible to users that are logged in that are supervisors for the particular schedule. So if I'm a supervisor for this FG1, I only see this one, versus if I were Lakshay as a supervisor of a different group, he would see a different forecast group and a different schedule there. So I have all of my activities here. And what I have here, we talked about, overtime, voluntary time off, and time off requests there. So I can go ahead if I know I have an agent that wants a day off next month. So I can go ahead, choose that particular staff member. I can choose that whether it's a full day, half day, or VTO. And this is just simply based on those shift activities you defined under the time off type. So anything you define as a time off type is going to appear here. I'm going to go ahead and do a full day. So I can just go ahead and check the all day here. And what they want off is the 14th of April because it's their birthday. So want to go ahead and put that in. Again, you have the option to override time off rules where we set those automatic approvals as far as allowances for different schedules. I want it to validate against the rules. So I'm going to go ahead, put the request in, and you can see all of the different requests that I have here. The one I just put in here, one for Friday that was already accepted. it changes to accepted once it's completed the rule validation, and a couple of agents that canceled their days off. I can also see I put in a couple of voluntary time off requests. And when you're defining VTO or overtime, you define how many staff members you want to offer this to. So go ahead and put in this VTO request, because I can see here at 4 p.m. I'm net 2 overstaffed. So let's go ahead, put in a VTO request for today. I can choose whether I want to do it by my staffing groups. And if I had more than one staffing group associated, I would see that here. Or I can choose individual staff members, and I can choose one or multiple by selecting them here. I'm going to leave it to my staffing group just to keep things simple for myself. But then I can define, how many staff I want to offer this to. And it'll get offered to everyone in the staffing group, and they have the option to accept or decline that request. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm looking for 2 right here. I'm going to define it as VTO. Again, it's a time off activity. So I need to choose one of my time off activities. And I need to go ahead and put in my end time. And I'm just looking here, we're looking at roughly between 3 and 5. So let's go ahead and say 3 to 4. Should I choose correctly PM? And I'm going to go ahead and put that request in. Or maybe I'm not, because the demo guide is not smiling on me at the moment. Anyway, we've put one in for tomorrow already, just in case something happens. So you can see here, I put in a VTO offering from 4 to 5 p.m. tomorrow for my entire staffing group. But all I did was I offered it to up to 3 people. I've had one agent already accept it, so there's 2 open slots. So you'll see here, close out the side panel so you can see a little better. VTO is being offered to all of the agents within my staffing group, but it's only up to 3. So my agent 507 here has already accepted it. So you see it changed from gray as pending to purple of accepted. There's 2 other slots. So the next 2 agents that choose to request it, it will all automatically be granted, and then the request will be closed. So very easy to manage time off request, overtime, voluntary time off within your contact center. You can see the status. I get the little 1 there indicating that there's something new there. There's my time off request that I just put in. So from a supervisor's perspective, we've seen how we define shift activities, shift profiles, staffing groups, and staff rules, as well as generating a schedule, publishing the schedule, and then managing requests for days off, offering up voluntary time off or overtime within a schedule. So let's go ahead and take a look at it from the agent's perspective. So from the agent's perspective, this is our Amazon Connect agent workspace. I access it by clicking on the agent workspace icon here at the upper portion of the screen. And from the agent workspace, I'm easily able to access my schedule by clicking on the little calendar icon. And it opens up in a new tab. This is a direct link, so optionally, your agents could go directly to this link to access their schedules. You could easily embed it within another application if you wanted to. And I'm looking at here for my user 105, the current week. So I'm able to see where my schedule is, where my breaks and lunches are. I happen to have already asked for and gotten approval for a day off for Friday. Going to make it a long weekend. But I can see this pending VTO request. Have some things I'd like to get taken care of. So I don't mind that, my workday gets interrupted a little bit. I could use that time to go run some errands. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that VTO request, and I'm going to go ahead and accept it. again, goes through and does all the rules validation prior to just simply marking it is good. You can see here there was an overtime that got canceled. My pending VTO, there was a VTO offer for the 3rd of April that I've gone ahead and accepted as well because I really like that schedule flexibility. And my different days off, both the ones that have been accepted for Friday as well as the 14th of April. So that request we put in for this agent, 14th of April, a couple of minutes ago within the supervisor application, you can see it's processed the rules. That request is accepted and reflected on the agent's calendar. So, and you can see what activities the agent previously had scheduled prior to that PTO day being approved. So very easy for your agents to see when they're scheduled to work, when different activities are, as well as manage opportunities either for a little more schedule flexibility with voluntary time off, or perhaps an opportunity to get some overtime, make a little more money if that's something they're looking to do and that's something you want to extend out to your agents within your contact center. So I thank you, Clarence, so much. I can see you've been going through the questions very quickly. That's the primary things that I wanted to cover when going through scheduling, Jing. Was there any other areas that we would like to cover based on the questions that have been asked in the chat?
Yes, there is an ask to look at how can we import shrinkage to capacity planning. Yeah, how we
Sure.
add shrinkage information to capacity planning. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the reason I have the different browsers down here, we support Edge, Chrome, and Firefox with Connect. It's just a little easier for me to have my supervisor logged in on one browser and my agent on the other, so I don't forget which window I'm clicking on. So let's go ahead, jump over to capacity planning, again, under the analytics and optimization menu. I'm going to go ahead and choose capacity planning, and I have import data there. Lakshay's imported a couple of upload files here. And if I had another file ready, I would go ahead, click on upload data, choose upload CSV and browse to my file. I can go ahead and also bring down the CSV template if I wanted to build one from scratch. Did that answer the question, or looking specifically? And there you go, Jing. Let me go ahead.
Thank
I'll
you.
open the sample file.
Yeah, I just post the sample file in the chat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I was
Yeah, for
just
that one, like it says that, you need to replace that with the forecast group name. So you can just like replace that and then upload the file. But for forecast group 2, I just did that when I was showing that thing. So yeah, if you want to kind of like maybe go to the capacity plan, maybe we have the updated
yeah.
thing there.
And you find the forecast group name under forecast groups here. It is case sensitive. So in this case, FG5 is capitals. I would want to make sure that I'm putting in FG5 as it's indicated, and then I can just simply extend it to all rows. Oh, nope, it's going to count up because it's Excel. So number of different ways you can do this within Excel. You can tell that Excel is not my particular mastery, but there, gone ahead and populated the forecast group in. Something to keep in mind when you're doing things like this, forecast groups, it does support spaces, but generally it's a little easier if you wanted to make it more readable, do FG-5, FG_5, just so you're not having to manage spaces within a CSV file. So, little tip there.
Thanks, Jonathan. Have you also go through the adherence reporting?
Sure. Good call out. I had that on my list and I knew I was going to forget something. So let's go ahead. Under we can look at adherence under real-time metrics. And again, this is a test system. So you're going to notice we have one agent that's logged in, and user 101 is very adherent to their schedule. I could go ahead, actually, let me go ahead and make my agent 105 adherent. So they will go ahead and update in a few seconds when this refreshes. I can force it to refresh, and you can see my agent 105 here is now available, which is what they're scheduled for, the duration, and they're going to go ahead and update their adherence schedule status here. For my other agents, you can see what their status is, what they're supposed to be doing according to the schedule, as well as what their percentage of adherence is. 101 is very good. They're always on their schedule. The
That's
remainder
me.
of my agents in this test system, not so much. Yes, question.
No, there wasn't any question. I was just
Okay.
saying that okay, that's the user is me. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
it.
Lakshay is a much better agent than I am. So see that there.
So Jonathan, I just want to share a couple of things. Maybe you can share also in the is that some of the common questions during all the preview our customers and partners be sharing is when they're trying to go to the published view, they could not see the schedule. One of the key things is yes, you need to be the supervisor of that group to be able to see the schedule. So can you please see
Yep.
that?
So,
Yeah.
so, so here I can see FG1, um, and where that is defined is let me quickly go back to that. You can see we're looking at the morning shift here. So that's my staffing group morning shift. So if I go to the morning shift staffing group, you can see my user admin is one of two supervisors as part of this group. Um, so that's why I'm able to view it. If I were to log in as a different supervisor who was not defined as the supervisor of this group, published schedule will be blank. And when I click on the forecast group dropdown, I won't see anything there. So if you're looking for a published schedule, you click on the published schedule, choose forecast group, and you're not seeing anything there, go check to make sure the user you're logged in with is the supervisor of the relevant staffing group.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely. And there was also some very common asked question is about how can I do ad hoc forecasting, right? So because we if you go back to the forecasting page, you will probably see we are running forecasts automatically daily for
Mm-hmm.
short term and every 4 weeks, every week we'll run long term every week. So we always keep the latest data to make sure our machine learning will retrieve not historical data, but also arriving patterns to give you the best accurate forecast. So in that case, you don't really have to run ad hoc to go so. But if you do have uploaded the data, then overwrite your historical data, and then it will definitely pull that in for the next run to scheduled. Yeah.
And I think I saw a question that Clarence asked, answered a little earlier, as far as it will run if you upload data. It has an automated model to identify low periods within your contact center to then run it. A good rule of thumb typically is, if I were to upload data right now, when I log back in the morning, it's going to be available to me. I saw Dennis's question around Clarence just put the instance URL. So all you need to do, Dennis, is go ahead and put that URL. So just agent app v2/scheduling. So even if you don't use the agent application, you're able to access this URL directly. So either your agents could bookmark that, or you could embed that within your custom CCP if you wanted to. Any other common questions that we've gotten, Jing, that we want to highlight?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of great questions, but if I think we could open the mic to the team if there's any questions, and we will ask live.
Jonathan, just a quick question for you. Is there integrations that are eventually coming to Amazon Connect that allows Amazon Connect to connect to HR tools that will pull in, time off, sick leaves, and vacations that are requested that are handled in that external application?
Sure, Mahan. Great question. I don't know if any of my service team peers are on and want to take that question, or whether that's something we'll need to follow up with you offline, Mahan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's follow up on that, Jonathan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about tools like, Paylocity and things like that. Like if you're using, timesheet type of tools that take in those types of things where supervisors approve it and stuff. Obviously, nobody wants to deal with that in two different systems, so it'll be good to try to pull that.
Exactly. Definitely understand the ask. So I think I saw Nimesh pop up. Let's make sure we have your contact information. We can follow up with you after this.
Yeah. Oh. Thanks. So there is one question coming up on. I know we have EventBridge connection between Salesforce. Is there any chance on integration with Sales ServiceNow?
I'd like to understand a little more, Daniel, of what you're looking, because we do have an integration with ServiceNow as far as being able to embed the contact control panel within ServiceNow, so your agents are able to handle interactions directly in there. But in the context of forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling, what are you looking for there?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Not in the sense of capacity planning, scheduling, or any of those. It's more of a broad, hey, I know you guys there's the open frame integration within ServiceNow, but our pain point has been integrating ServiceNow, like tables, into the CCP, or pulling information from ServiceNow into the CCP via like REST API calls and such. I was wondering if there's like an actual direct connection via like EventBridge or something that provides that kind of functionality.
I will have to check. I know we have that integration to embed the CCP, but admittedly, not a ServiceNow expert. So let's make sure. I'm sure we have your contact information from the registration, so make sure that we follow up with you offline.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was typing it, but that's okay. Looking at the capacity planning, in the section for where we enter the scenario, we have a section for daily attrition. I'm wondering, let's say we have a team that loses about 2 people per month. How are we entering that on a daily basis as a percentage? Is it, can we kind of look at that?
Sure. Let me go. There is a formula within the admin guide, and Clarence may beat me to the link before I pull it up here live on the screen, which is always so within capacity planning, let's let me see if I can find it on the fly while we're doing this live, which is okay. There we go. So daily attrition. It basically gives you the example of if annual is 50%, 50% divided by 250 or whatever the number of working days in your contact center is. So you would calculate it that way. If you have it monthly, you could calculate it from the number of days in a month.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. If it does take decimals like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. First time I saw it, I'm like, well, I know what my attrition is over the month or the quarter or the year, like daily.
Yeah.
I hope my contact center is not turning over that fast.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Um,
But we
Makes
got
sense
this.
though. Thank you.
Sure.
And Jonathan, there are a couple of questions related to setting up the staffing staffing group rules on the working hours, and it start at the same time. Maybe you want to share, just go to that screen and share where the rules are
Yep.
set. Thank you.
Sure. Absolutely. I love how interactive this is. Oh, don't do it from highlighting security profiles. So want to make sure that I'm logged in with the correct user. So uh, shift profiles, I'm defining what, sorry, Jing, was it around shift profiles or the individual agent staff rules?
Well, I think it is also related to shift profiles too, right? So one question
Sure.
is,
Yeah.
how can I have a fixed, be able to fix a starting time, like a morning shift versus an evening shift for my agent? Yeah.
So
So
you want
this,
all your agents to start at the same time?
so I
So I
think at
think
the
the
first
question,
part,
yeah, the question is twofold in a way. If you have a morning shift and an afternoon shift, the morning
Mm-hmm.
shift, they let's say they want everyone to start at the same time, but the afternoon shift, they want that to be staggered based on traffic. So they would like to see how that can be done.
Sure. So morning shift, and remind me, Clarence, since I'm now blanking, are we setting that under staffing group?
Right.
Yep. Okay. So shift start time. So I good call out. I talked about the minimum and maximum working time and minimum staff required. So when I'm creating my staffing group for my morning shift, I would just simply choose shift start time, and I can choose the strategy of same start time. So if I define that, my morning shift, every agent's going to start at the same time versus
So
based on forecasted demand.
yeah.
right. So we are at a staffing group right now. So make sure if we scroll back up to the top, you'll see that you pick a particular shift profile, which is on a
Correct.
particular time. So
Correct.
if every staffing group can only be associated to a single shift profile. So you might have two different groups of people have the morning shift and they will have this particular attribute. Now, if you go to other shift, other staffing group that is associated to the afternoon shift, all you have to do is remove that row where you have the uh, start at the same time. If you don't have that, then those groups it will be starting at different time based on the traffic pattern. And then when you create the schedule at the end, because you are picking a forecast group, it will pull in all of those different staffing group, morning and afternoon, and it will create a single schedule with the morning people start at the same time and the afternoon people they can start at different time.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So let
Clarence.
me add
And as you
to,
saw, by default, the same start time is not defined. So by default, it does schedule based on the forecasted demand. But for this use case where I want everyone to start the morning at the same time, I would go ahead and define this in this particular staffing group. But what, like Clarence mentioned, shift profiles can be associated with multiple staffing groups. So if I'm using that shift profile with multiple staffing groups, I would want to make sure I define it for any applicable ones. Sorry, Jing.
I want to add a little bit just the relationship between forecast group, staffing group, and also shift profile, right? So you can see in the staffing group, this is where you put all three things together. Your demand, which is your forecast group, and then your how you want your shift look like, which is a shift profile, where there's a start, where there's an end, your operation hours for that group, and then you have your agent added to this group. So you putting your demand and supply together. But of course, one forecast group can have multiple staffing group because you have a morning shift and a night shift. So you will be able to see that. And once you associate that, when you create a schedule, Jonathan, can you go to your schedule? Just click create a schedule with any of the forecast groups. It will automatically detect how many staffing group are associated to this forecast group. Yeah. So just select one that you have multiple groups. Okay.
Well,
Looks
you can see this one. I don't have any staffing groups for my forecast group 5. Lakshay, did we associate multiple staffing groups to one forecast group?
No, I
You
just
did it separately.
yeah,
So
that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, so I can show you here. I could for the evening shift right now, I happen to have it associated with FG2. So if I were to go create a new staffing group, I have all of my agents associated with the staffing group, so it's not going to let me do that. But
Right.
if I were, you would see that here.
Yeah, so that's how the relationships are. You have multiple staffing group belong to one forecast group, and also similar, you could have supervisors managing multiple staffing group too. So you can assign a supervisor to multiple staffing group. You can also have multiple supervisor for one staffing group. Okay, that's
Great call out there about the multiple supervisors. So I do have multiple supervisors here. So I have, if you have a primary and a backup, you may also have, your workforce manager is assigned as a supervisor to all of your staffing groups because
Yeah.
you want them to be able to see. So I went ahead and added my admin user who was already associated to my evening shift or my morning shift staffing group to my evening shift staffing group. And now you can see when I go into schedule, as soon as the change takes effect, I now have both forecast groups in my drop down and I can choose the applicable one.
Yeah. And one more thing I would like to share with the audience is, can you go to the shift profile where you put all the activities, the activity placement rules? Because we got a lot of questions from customers on that page is to understand the logic behind it, right? For example, you would like to put a break as 2 hours after the shift start within the next 1 hour. What it really means is you will start with, because your shift started 9, right? Your hour is 9. Then that means after shift start 9, it's 11. I want to put a break between 11 and 1 hour after 11. So that's what it means. Because it's a little bit confusing for some customers. They put a 8 hour in the next 8 hours, and that will exceed your window of the whole thing, so it will not work. So that's the one thing I would like to mention. Similar to the other one, if you want to set something like closing, you want to set a break to 1 hour before your closing time, please also allow the enough time before the closing time. If you're closing at 6 p.m. at evening, so you probably want to define some breaks. Say, hey, I want to put a break, which is 30 minutes, a 30 minutes break. At least 1 hour in the next 30 minutes window, right? Because you have to allow that 30 minutes to run, not go over 6 p.m. So those are some of the considerations you have to think when you're putting the placement rules.
You can also, we happen to have them as shift start. I could also do shift end. Say an
Yes.
agent happens to have, it has 2 breaks. I don't want it to schedule the break in, the last 15 minutes that they're scheduled to work. I want to make sure that that break takes place at least an hour from the end or 2 hours from the end, whatever I want to do. So I can have the same activity type multiple times within a particular shift profile if it's something like a break that occurs multiple times throughout the day.
That's right. And we also added some new things you can see in the the rules between meals and break. And then in that case, you can define the gaps between your lunch and break, right? So you don't want to stack your break with your lunch together. And that's something you can define over there as well. Yeah.
And one more thing to add is supervisors in the staffing group, they are not with they are not to be scheduled as a productive agent taking calls. So if you do have supervisors that act as both as an agent and a supervisor, uh, they cannot be added in both roles. So therefore, some of our customers have tried to create an additional user for the supervisor to use as a supervisor capacity perspective so that they will log in as the supervisor username versus their agent username to take calls and the supervisor usernames to manage the schedule.
Yeah. Cool. I think
So yeah, there was a great explanation. It's hard to visualize a little bit. I have a quick question for you. It's just a scenario that you've created here. Let's imagine I'm a 24/7 contact center. I have agents that work 3 different shifts, morning, noon, divided up however you want, graveyard and then night shift and morning and then day shift. I can't connect the dots between I've got 3 different shifts throughout a 24-hour day and I want them to belong to a forecast group. I briefly saw it there for a moment, but I couldn't see how you connected those dots.
So
It's
the
like I
way
have to create them all.
yeah.
I have to create one staff group, it looks like.
No.
No.
You would create 3 staffing groups and 3 different
Yeah.
shift profiles. But in the staffing group, all 3 staffing group would belong to the same forecast group, but each of them will have a different shift profile covering all 24/7. Probably overlap a little, which is what normally a call center would do,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yep.
12 to 11, and then the second group will have a shift profile from 10 to 5, and then the third group will be from like 4 to 1 a.m. or something. So then each will have a shift profile that would overlap from a time perspective, but they will all be tied to the same forecast group. And then when
Forecast
you
group.
create, right, and then when you create a schedule, as shown earlier, it will pull all the staffing group that belongs to that forecast group, and then you will see a schedule on the left hand side. If you see it, you will see a
See.
collapsible view that's saying you have 3 teams or 3 staffing groups that have
Right.
a overlapping schedule on a single generated schedule.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Trying to mock it up real quick.
Great. So is there any more questions? Yeah, typically share some because we know every customer is different. You have different type of schedules, right? You could have 8 to 5, yeah, very fixed ones, or you can have a very, very dynamic ones that you start very different times. So yeah.
I do have a question. I have a question. If we were to do shift bids, do you have to can you just generate schedules that are not attached to specific people and then just generate the schedules and then have agents bid them out?
Absolutely. And Eric, we'll follow up with that with you on this one, and we that's great discussion. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Mahan, that was Mahan with the question.
Yeah.
Hey guys, another quick question for you. How do you deal with callouts in the scheduling? So, we're kind of a dynamic workspace where, people can call in the morning and sometimes call out and make up the shift later. And, obviously, if you have set up your agents with the generated schedule, you have to be able to go in there to modify it to handle that. Is there an easy way to do that on a generated schedule?
So you can easily go in and add in an activity. I didn't create one in here. I'm just going to choose PTO for this one, but I could have created an activity called sick day, for example, or call out or something. So I can easily go in and add that activity to that agent. I do have to go ahead and override the rules check. Okay, it's not going to let me do it through scheduling agent. So I'm going to have to, I could manage it through, in the published schedule, I could manage it as a time off request and choose sick day or call out or whatever there. If I wanted to do it on the schedule prior to it being published, I could easily just go ahead and add in the activity manually there, but then I would need to republish the schedule. So probably you're going to want to do it as through the request capability in published schedule. But it simply would just put that activity there. It's not going to then readjust and say, okay, they called out for 4 hours this morning. Let me go give them 4 hours somewhere else.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Hi, I have two quick questions.
Sure.
The first question is, can agent reject the schedule or request a reschedule? And the second question is regarding the billing. If we're running a 24/7 call center with 8-hour shift, does it mean the whole shift time will be billable, including the non-productive time like break or meeting time?
Jing or Nimesh, you want to take the billing question?
Yes. Sorry, could you repeat that, please? My audio was broken up for a bit there.
No problem. For 8-hour shift, regardless whether it's 24/7 or not, is the whole full 8-hour shift will be billable, including non-billable time like break or meeting or lunch?
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's everything that is being scheduled is considered a part of the billable hours.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the billable hours is activities scheduled, so it's productive or non-productive. Everything
Yep.
will get counted.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
And the first question is, can agent reject the schedule or request a reschedule?
When you're putting out requests to an agent, as far as offering up voluntary time off or overtime, the agent is able to decline the request. I already accepted that one. Let me go see if I haven't accepted it on one of my agents. So if I went to this voluntary time off request, I did accept it on both of them. For voluntary time off and overtime, I can choose to decline the request as an agent. There's not the option for an agent to simply say, I don't like the schedule that I was given this week.
Okay, understood.
And Jesse had a question. Do you mind if asking it live? Is not really sure what you mean.
Sorry, yeah. So I wanted to ask, like, if the schedule is published for, let's just say, one agent or two agents, and they work different shifts, is there an option for them to ask for a shift trade?
So you're basically asking if we can
Like,
do shift swapping between two agents.
exactly. Yeah.
Jing or
Yeah, I think today what you can do is we have the option where as a supervisor you can remove the shift and you can copy one agent's shift to another. So that's available today, where
So
you can swap shifts that way. Yeah.
so they would have to reach out to the supervisor to make that
correct.
change.
Yes.
Okay. And then
Yeah,
after, sorry, go ahead.
there's no mechanism for the agent to do it themselves between them to say, I want to swap with you right at the moment.
Got it. So after, like, let's just say the supervisor does like the swap, then what do we regenerate the schedule again to show that change, or do we just leave it
No,
as
it's reflected right away. You don't have
it's
to
reflected? Okay,
regenerate the whole schedule. Yeah.
got it. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
as long as they do it on a published schedule, like the screen we're on. Notice
Hmm.
how on the upper left you see a schedule manager versus
Hmm.
a published scheduled calendar. So that's where the difference is. If they do it on that published schedule calendar, then it
Hmm.
should reflect right away.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we have got a lot of great questions and a lot of follow-ups today. If there's no further questions, we can close this. We can close this session. Yes. Thanks, Alyssa. So please fill out the survey forms for this workshop and help us to improve those sessions as well. And we really appreciate the feedback, and it's a great session. Yes, the recorded will be published in our resource center. We'll share with the audience. Thank you.